Hello and welcome everyone to the second part of the lecture which we are doing. My name is Ashwin Joglekar and I am from Resonance PCCP division. We are doing the chapter Delhi Sultans. Now before we start, there was a mistake of the date which was there in the lesson 1, that is part 1. So first we will deal with that and then we will move further. Now this is 1479, okay, the date here. In 1479, Bhalol Lodi led a conquest of the Sharki kingdom of Jaunpur, which was based in Jaunpur. Okay, so you can correct it, 1479. All right. So now let us move to the next part, that is administration of Khaljis and Tughlaqs. The consolidation of a kingdom as vast as Delhi Sultanate needed reliable governors. That is, you need effective administration in place of governors as well as administrators. Rather than appointing aristocrats and landed chieftains as governors, the early Delhi Sultans, especially Iltutmish, favored their special slaves and special slaves purchased for military service called Bandagan in Persian. They are carefully trained to man some of the most important political offices in the kingdom, and also they are known as Chalisi or Chaurasi. Okay, since they were totally dependent upon their master, the Sultan could trust and rely upon them. The Khaljis and Tughlaqs continued to use Bandagan and also raised people of the humble birth who were often their clients to high political positions. They were appointed as generals and governors, given important positions in the kingdom. However, this also introduced an element of political instability, because later on probably these governors or the generals wanted to acquire more power. Now slaves and clients were loyal to their masters and patrons, but not to their heirs, that is their sons. So now new sultans had their own servants. As a result, the accession of a new monarch often saw conflict between the old and the new nobility. The patronage of these humble people by the Delhi Sultans and also shocked many elites, and the authors of Persian Tariq criticized the Delhi Sultans for appointing low and base born to high offices, that is lowly people to high offices. Like the earlier sultans, the Khalji and the Tughlaq monarchs appointed military commanders as governors of territories of varying sizes. These lands were called Iqta and their holder was called Iqtadar or Mukti. The duty of the Muktis was to lead military campaigns and maintain law and order in their respective Iqtas. That is, Iqta is nothing but an area. In exchange for their military services, the Muktis collected the revenues of their assignments as salary. So whatever Iqta they had, they used to collect the revenue as salary. They also paid their soldiers from these revenues, and control over Muktis was most effective if their office was not inheritable. That is, if they were assigned Iqtas for a short period of time, that is according to a contract base probably, and could also be shifted or given to someone else. Now these harsh conditions, that is these harsh conditions of service were rigorously imposed during the reigns of Alauddin Khilji and Muhammad Tughlaq. Accountants were appointed by the state to check the amount of revenue which was collected by these Muktis. Care was again taken that the Mukti collected only the taxes which were prescribed by the state, and he is not collecting some other different tax. So that is being prescribed by the state, and that he kept the required number of soldiers also in his army. As the Delhi Sultans brought the hinterland, that is the outside areas of the cities under their control, they forced the landed chieftains, that is the Samanta, aristocrats and rich landlords to accept their authority as well. Under Alauddin Khalji, the state brought the assessment and collection of land revenue under its own control, that is under the control of the state. The rights of local chieftains, local leaders or local rulers to levy were cancelled, and they were also forced to pay taxes. That is, earlier these local rulers used to collect taxes. Now this is being done away with, and they were also forced to pay taxes to the Sultan or the state. The Sultan's administration measured the land and kept careful accounts of it. Some of the old chieftains, rulers and landlords served the Sultanate as revenue collectors and assessors. So now they were working under the sultans. Now there were some three kinds of taxes which have been mentioned here, that is on cultivation called kharaj and amounting to about 50% of the peasants' produce, that is half. Then on cattle it was taken and on houses it was taken. It is important to remember that large parts of the subcontinent remained outside the control of the Delhi sultans. It was difficult to control distant provinces like Bengal from Delhi because of the distance. And soon after annexing southern India, the entire region became independent, because you cannot go back again and again and establish or re-establish your control. Even in the Gangetic plain, there were forested areas that Sultanate forces could not actually penetrate. Local rulers, chieftains established their rule in these regions, and sometimes rulers like Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq could force their control in these areas, but only for a short duration, that is not for a long duration. They could not do that. Now, next comes is causes of the decline of this Sultanate. Why the Delhi Sultans declined? The first point, which is here it is, the Delhi Sultans saw its decline in the early 16th century, but this decline can be considered as an effect of various policies which actually or gradually weakened their rule. That is, first of, lack of rules of succession, that who will succeed was never established. There were no fixed rules of succession in the dynasties. Then there used to be bitter rivalries between whoever is contesting for becoming the next sultan, for supremacy among the subordinates who were there or sons to gain supremacy due to jealousy. So there is no clear line of succession, that is, or accession, that who will ascend to the throne after the sultan is dead. Now, as the power of the nobles was also increasing or had been taken away, the nobles became powerful by having provinces to rule or control. The kings were dependent on them for revenue and survival, and gradually these nobles assumed themselves to be as kings and fractured the kingdom into smaller states, that is, divided it. Then policies of arrogance. There are many rulers who were extremely autocratic, that is, they did not tolerate any form of dissent or disagreement with them, and harsh on the people of the kingdom. They considered themselves to be gods, okay, not just or not even the representative god, they considered themselves to be like gods. This was a major cause of discontent among the people. Then inconsistency of policies. Each ruler brought his own policies, and the earlier policies were done away with, and again new ruler used to bring his own set of policies. So there was no streamlining in governance, a continuation, and people were left to the personal fancies of different kings. Judicial and administrative systems were not smooth and kept varying again different under different rulers. Imposition of tax on non-Muslims started dividing the society as well. So the end of Sultanate brought about a change of rulers and dynasties by foreigners. The Mughal Empire set foot on Indian subcontinent, and we shall study that in the next chapter, that is the Mughal Empire. Now there is a short mention about the Mongols also here. That is Mongols invasion by Genghis Khan. The Mongol rulers or ruler under Genghis Khan invaded Transognia in northeast Iran in 1219, and the Delhi Sultanate faced their onslaught soon after, but it was because of Alauddin Khilji that could be averted. Mongol attacks on Delhi Sultanate increased during the reign of Alauddin Khilji and in early years of Muhammad Tughlaq's rule. This forced the two rulers to mobilize a large standing army in Delhi, which posed a huge administrative challenge, because you had to maintain the army, and because there was always a threat lingering on the invasion. The two sultans dealt with this in their own ways. For the first time in history of Sultanate, the Delhi Sultan planned a campaign, that is Muhammad bin Tughlaq, but later he gave away this plan. So this is also again one of the things why he is known as mixture of opposites, or referred to as wise fool. Defensive measures. Muhammad Tughlaq's measures were conceived as a part of military offensive against the Mongols. Now there is also a comparative study of Khaljis and Tughlaq rulers. So let's look one by one. Alauddin Khalji. Delhi was attacked twice, and Sultanate was attacked in early years of Muhammad Tughlaq's reign. For Alauddin Khilji, defensive measure, Alauddin Khilji raised a large standing army in order to be prepared for the defense. Here Muhammad Tughlaq wanted to do an offensive, that is attack the army. Mongol army was defeated. Muhammad Tughlaq was confident about the strength of his army and his resources to plan an attack later on their own kingdom. He therefore raised a large standing army. Alauddin constructed a new garrison town named Siri for his soldiers. Rather than constructing a new garrison town, he wanted of the 4 cities of Delhi was emptied of his residents and soldiers and garrison there. The residents of the old city were sent to the new capital of Daulatabad in the south, which again he later cancelled. So both the rulers actually have been compared here, that is of Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad Tughlaq. Now here the soldiers had to be fed, and this was done through the produce collected as a tax from lands between the Doab region, that is in Ganga Yamuna, and it was fixed at 50%. Produce from the same area was collected as a tax to feed the army, but to meet the expense of maintaining such a large number of soldiers, the Sultan levied additional taxes, and this coincided with a famine in the area. So therefore again one of the policies which backfired. The soldiers had to be paid. Alauddin chose to pay the soldiers in salaries in cash rather than iktas. The soldiers would buy their supplies from merchants in Delhi, and it was thus feared that merchants would raise their prices. To stop this, Alauddin had already put in place a market regulation policy. Prices of goods in Delhi, prices were carefully surveyed by officers, and merchants who did not sell at the prescribed rates were punished. Muhammad Tughlaq also paid his soldiers cash salaries, but instead of controlling prices, he used a token currency, somewhat like a paper currency of today, but made out of cheap metals, not gold and silver. Now people in the 14th century did not trust these coins, and they were very smart. They saved their gold and silver coins and paid all their taxes to the state with the token money. This cheap currency could also be counterfeited easily. Anyone could produce it. Now Alauddin's administrative measures were quite successful, and chroniclers have actually praised his reign for its cheap prices and efficient supplies of goods in the market. He successfully withstood the threat of Mongol invasions. Muhammad Tughlaq's administrative measures were a failure. His campaign into Kashmir was a disaster, and he then gave up his plan to invade Tanzania and disbanded his large army. That was again a policy which backfired. Earlier you maintain or are making preparations for this army to go and attack, and then you give up in midway. Meanwhile, his administrative measures were resented or was resented. The raising of taxes and famine in Ganga Yamuna belt led to widespread rebellion among the people. And finally, the token currency had to be recalled also. Now here are some keywords, that is chehra, description of a soldier, iktas, land grants which are given to nobles or military officers instead of regular cash salaries. Mamluk was owned or a slave or son of the slave. Paibos, that is again the nobles had to bend down and kiss the feet of the Sultan. Sijda and Paibos. Sijda, a form of salutation in which a person had to kneel and touch the ground with his forehead. That is a form of salutation in front of the Sultan, which was establishing the supremacy of the king, Sultan. Tankas were silver coins, and Twarik was historical records which are written in Persian, and ulemas are the Muslim priests. Now let us quickly recall some of the things which are mentioned here. Delhi became important under the Delhi Sultanate. Important dynasties which were again slave dynasty, Khalji dynasty, Tughlaq dynasty, Sayyid dynasty and Lodi dynasty. The foundation of slave dynasty was laid down by Qutubuddin Aibak, and then later on after Qutubuddin Aibak, Iltutmish and Balban, Razia Sultan and Balban, Ghiyasuddin Balban. There was constant struggle for power between the kings and the nobles, which included the group of 40 high officials called the 40 which was created by the Iltutmish, Chalisa. The nobles were paid by grants of land which was known as Ikta. Alauddin Khilji again was the most important ruler of the Khalji dynasty, introduced the market regulation policy or control and administrative measures in order to maintain a large standing army. Among Tughlaqs, Muhammad bin Tughlaq introduced 3 projects: shift of capital from Delhi to Daulatabad, introduction of token currency and raising of land tax in the Doab region to 50% of all all of which failed and weakened his position as a ruler. Then after the Tughlaq dynasty, the disintegration of the Delhi Sultanate set in, though the Sayyids and Lodhis continued to rule till 1526, and in 1526, as we know, Babur defeated Ibrahim Lodhi in the first battle of Panipat and thus establishing or laying the foundations of the Mughal Empire. So this brings us to an end of the chapter on Delhi Sultans. I hope you liked it. Thank you so much.